Says we're now streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just going to check on the page to make sure it's actually streaming live. It appears to be. Okay, we're go.
Okay, good. Then I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome. This is the special meeting of the Cumberland County Commissioners. This is April 1, 2020. It's a Wednesday. We are experimenting, or this is the first meeting we've had in this format. The way this will work is the commissioners are all on Zoom and we can all see and hear each other. The public is invited to watch us live on YouTube, and that information has gone out already. What we will be doing at a certain point in the meeting, we'll be inviting comments for the public, and how members of the public can do that is to send an email with your question or comment to the following email address. It's kennedy@cumberlandcounty.org. That's KENNEDY @cumberlandcounty.org. And our communications director, Travis Kennedy, will collate those. And when I call for questions, then he can read any emails that have come in, and we can, we'll have the benefit of the comment. And if there's something that we need to respond to, we will be able to respond. So very much in the manner of a live program. So I'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the resolution regarding the Maine Bond Bank. And Jim Gailey, is that you, or who's presenting this, or yes, is it our finance director? Okay, up to you.
This item is a resolution that the Maine Bond Bank would like us to review and adopt, the elected officials adopt, that is. And that is, and I won't read it, it is 3 pages long, but it is posted to our website, and you all have it in front of you. But it is kind of the official step of going through the bond bank and committing to authorizing them to sell $290,194 worth of bonds for us, so that we can proceed with the first phase of our dispatch radio system upgrade. And so this is the resolution to get us to the point. And then the second item on today's agenda is the loan agreement. So before I kick it back to you, Mr. Chair, I will ask Alex if he has anything more to add to that.
Yeah, this was something of a timing issue, folks. We had to put in the application at your last meeting. We got word that our application had been accepted after the March meeting, with a deadline to get it back before the April meeting. So we got it kind of stuck in the middle here, but otherwise this isn't any different than the resolution you folks would normally do when we go out to a bond with Dick Ranigan. Just different timing for this one.
Okay, thank you. And just as a note to the public, if anyone wants to see these documents, they are on the county website. That website is cumberlandcounty.org. That's cumberlandcounty.org. And if you can navigate over to the Agenda Center, you can download all of these documents and take a look at them. So they are available for the public, and they'll be available for some lengthy period of time on our website after the meeting. So if anyone's interested, they can do that. Further discussion on this item?
I move passage of it.
I hear a motion from was that Commissioner Cloutier?
Yes, I think Jameson was involved as well.
I'll take the second.
And then the second. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay, I would ask that so it's clear, instead of just a voice vote, if Barbara, can you are you able to call the roll of commissioners and ask them what their vote is? Could you do that?
Sure, I could. I'd be
If
glad.
you would, please. I know you're not expecting this, but I think if we all say aye, that'll be a little confusing. So
Okay,
call their names and see, and you tell Barbara how you're voting.
okay. Commission Chair Thomas Coward,
Yes, aye.
Vice Chair Stephen Gordon,
Aye.
Neil Jamison,
Aye.
James Cloutier,
Yes,
and Susan Watonis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. That appears to be a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. The second item is item 20-028, authorizing the county manager to sign on behalf of the county the Maine Bond Bank Loan Agreement. Jim, any further comment? Jim Gailey, any further comments about this matter?
Well, as this item is a little bit different from the resolution that you just passed. The resolution has the commissioners signing off. This loan agreement has the county manager signing off. And I thought it would be only prudent to seek authorization by the elected officials to have me sign this loan agreement. So that's why this is on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Discussion.
move passage.
I hear a motion to pass from
Second.
Commissioner Cloutier, second from Commissioner Gordon, was that?
Correct.
Okay, Barbara, could you call the roll again?
Yes, Thomas Coward, Chairman,
Yes.
Stephen Gordon, Vice Chair,
Yes.
Neil Jamison,
Yes.
James Cloutier,
Yes,
and Susan Watonis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioners. That passes unanimously. Next is item number 20-029, County Commissioner Emergency Declaration. Now, you should have received an amended declaration from I got mine by email. I believe it's up on the website. It looks like the one that was on the original agenda, except it's been updated to reflect the governor's stay-at-home order of yesterday, of March 31st, and update some numbers and other things in there. So first, I would be first off open to discussion, and finally, or secondly, open to a motion to approve the amended declaration.
So move.
second.
Here, a motion from Commissioner Jamison, and I think that was a second from Commissioner Cloutier. Discussion on this item, please.
I would, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please. Go ahead, Jim.
It's a much more efficient way to do things that this authorizes the county manager to proceed in needful ways. The resolution itself does not explicitly require a report later, but I take it as a given that Mr. Gailey will keep us informed of any actions taken under the powers that are extended under this resolution. I hope we can confirm that.
Tom?
to the public.
Yes, Commissioner Jamison, I think, right?
Gordon.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Gordon.
First, I agree with you, Jim, and I had some words I'd like to add to this for our consideration. Is the third paragraph from the bottom, and to add "and as offered for ratification by the county commissioners." That does two things in my mind. One is it kind of protects the manager because it ensures that the commission gets to act or agree with what he has done.
What, on the
If I
second
may.
page? On the second page, is that what you're
Yes,
talking
the
about?
third paragraph from the last, and from the bottom of the page or the bottom of the
Right. So it's
So-
the one that
Declaration.
begins, it's the one that begins, the commissioners authorize the county manager
Correct.
to act as necessary and so forth. Okay, and what
Right.
did you want to add? Sorry,
And as offered for ratification by the county commissioners.
Does
I-
that mean, however, Steve, that Jim and the executive management staff cannot make a decision until we ratify it specifically through a meeting like this? Or you just want to provide support for the decision whenever we verify and ratify the executive management team's actions?
The latter, Neil, and it ensures, I believe, that the managers do bring the information to the commission.
So can I address that one?
yes, please. Jim
Um,
Cloutier.
I actually intentionally did not offer an idea like that for the very reason that I think that the manager and executive staff in implementing this need not worry about whether there'll be some discussion of ratification when after the fact. And so I think if we're notified of what has been done pursuant to this authority, if there's something that we are concerned about, we can discuss it. And but anything that we would do would have to be prospective. And so I had not thought ratification processes would be the best way to approach that. So, you know, I'd be glad to hear from the manager about what he thinks of that as well. But the my intention was simply to get an indication that whatever is done was going to be discussed for the benefit of the public at a subsequent meeting. And like I say, if some unexpected reason we think that the authority needs to be expanded or curtailed, anything we do should be prospective and should not put anybody at risk for adverse action related to something that's already occurred. That's just my idea.
Further discussion? Jim Gailey, your thoughts?
My thoughts are as long as you accept what I do on the back end of things, we're all good. But kidding aside, it is one of those things that there will be, and we've discussed it over the last number of weeks, going right back to when the commissioners and kind of gave me a little bit, me and my staff, a little bit more wiggle room as it comes down to the non-union personnel policy. There will be some things that we need to address, shift on the fly, and having that ability to do that and allow the commission to ratify that is okay with me on the backside of things. I'm only concerned that maybe I need to take one more step and give you an advance notice of what I'm doing, just so that if there is any concerns, that commissioner or commissioners can talk to me one-on-one on a direction I'm taking versus me going on a limb and then 3 weeks later at our next meeting, I'm asking for you to ratify the actions I've taken place.
Yeah. Okay. Other commissioner comment. I have some comments, but anybody else wants to speak first? Yes,
Well,
Steve.
Yeah, that's why hear the words that I'm suggesting. And as offered for ratification by the county commissioners.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it means, to me, what that means is that what in this case, it would be Jim has done, he's got to offer it to us for ratification. It doesn't address whether we ratify it or not.
Well, it seems to me the problem with that is, I think this is what Jim is raising, is that if every time he wants to do something, he has to convene a special meeting and have us ratify it. I mean, ratification is a formal process that we have to actually vote to do, I would think.
Right, but ratification is afterwards.
Well, exactly. But what I'm I think we will get our opportunity to review this afterwards in any case. I mean, my feeling about this is that our rules, practices, and customs already involve the county manager keeping us informed in real time or near as real time as possible about what is going on. And if we have questions or issues, or if we disagree about it, we would have the opportunity to either comment directly to the manager or to convene another meeting such as this and have a public discussion about it. And I think my concern with putting this in is it may make an implication that sort of an expectation, an implication that the county manager gets to do something, and then we give him authority under here to do certain things, and that he has to, in order to make it valid, he has to at some unspecified point get our approval. And my concern is that does that leave his actions open to attack from somebody between the time he does it and the time we approve it? So I would just assume, my feeling is, I think the way we've operated is we give the county manager relatively wide latitude to do what he wants or do what he thinks best, keeping us informed. And then after the fact, we kind of have a postmortem and we decide. And maybe at that point we offer a motion saying we ratify all of these things. I wouldn't build it in here because that creates one more potential argument against the validity of what the manager has done. If you see what I mean, I understand that we need to discuss this. I see what you're trying to do. I think you're just adding a little chink in the armor here to if people are unhappy about it.
Well, here's one of my concerns is that if the next manager is going to be just like Jim, or if Jim, God forbid, ran into the beer truck theory where he stepped off the curb and we were looking for somebody else, we're setting policy for the future. And we had better have those kind of protections or those kind of abilities built into this that doesn't prevent a manager from doing what they need to do. But they should also have to make sure that they understand they have to come in and explain themselves to the commission.
Well, I think Jim Cloutier.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the issue for me is I consider ratification to be a formal legal process that simply adopts and approves ex post facto something that has been done. And I don't think you can operate on an emergency basis subject to later approval or revision. Now, that does not mean I don't support, an obligation, which I'm willing to take on good faith until I'm proven otherwise with our current manager, that we're going to hear everything we need to hear and know everything we need to know. I'll say, as Commissioner Gordon has pointed out, you do things once, and even though it's not chiseled in stone, that's usually the way you do it every time thereafter until you find out that you had a problem. So we are creating a blueprint here in a way. But usually I think the way to do that and to address actually the specific example of what could go wrong might be to put a drop dead date on it. And that gives you the chance to deal with it again in the future if you feel like you need to. So, but I kind of retain my discomfort with adding that amendment.
So, okay, yeah, further, okay, I'm taking Steve Gordon's suggestion as a motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it to make sure that we have a vote, but I'm not
okay.
Thinking I'll vote for it.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have further discussion about this motion?
Well, the amendment, Tom, right?
It's the amendment. Yes, the motion. There's been a motion moved and seconded to approve this. So this is an amendment. So that we're talking about an amendment to Steve's proposed amendment to the language. That's what's up for discussion right now. Steve.
Well, can I pick up on what Jim, I think, suggested is that putting a drop dead date on this policy that we're creating, or some suggestion that it's got to be reviewed.
Yeah, I would support a review in the declaration at some appropriate time, a month from at the next meeting, for instance. Or something like that. Bring it up as bring it up as an agenda item to actually discuss how it's going. Yeah, Jim Cloutier.
Yeah, I think that should happen as a matter of course. I was suggesting that maybe we just say the declaration of emergency will expire in 4 months unless it's extended or something like that. And that would address,
Yeah, I
we're not
agree.
creating a permanent.
Okay.
So Jim Cloutier, is that a second amendment?
That'll be an offered amendment after we dispose of the current one, I guess.
Okay.
one way or the other.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment that Steve Gordon has put forward? Yes, Steve.
Well, yeah, if we're going to go that way with Jim's approval, I'll withdraw what I've suggested.
That's
Okay.
fine with me too. Yeah.
And
That's
so the motion, the second, have been withdrawn, and now we have a motion from Jim Cloutier to.
This policy
this-
will, how about I move the amendment that adds to the end, this policy shall expire 120 days from the date hereof unless sooner or extended.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
I think Susan seconded. Jim Gailey, is that clear? And do you have comments about this? If you're on mute, Jim. There you go.
All right.
Do you have comments?
No, I'm all set. Thank you for the discussion.
Okay. So on the, I guess we've got the amended motion, the amendment to the motion to vote on first. And Barbara, if you could call the roll again on this is the amended motion to limit the span of this to 120 days.
Okay. Thomas Coward, Chair.
Yes.
Stephen Gordon, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Neil Jamison,
Yes.
James Cloutier,
Yes.
and Susan Watonis.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Now, is there further discussion on the amended, amended declaration? Seeing none, could the clerk please call the roll again?
Yes. Thomas Coward, Chair.
Yes.
Stephen Gordon, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Neil Jamison,
Yes.
James Cloutier,
Yes.
and Susan Watonis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That passes as amended unanimously. I think Jim Cloutier, Jim Gailey, do you need anything further on this one?
No, I do not. Thank you for the consideration.
Okay. Next is comments from the public. Travis Kennedy, have we had comments or questions?
We've not received any emails as of this moment, nor have we received any comments in the YouTube live stream. No.
Okay, so no comments. No comments from the public. That part of the meeting is now closed. Comments from the county manager.
Thank you. We have done a number of different things in the offices house, to reduce the staff and in a sense thin out people who tend to be on top of each other on a normal working day. It's funny. I think this is the first time I've seen Barbara and Travis in a week.
Yeah.
And so I'm reconnecting with my staff through this video conference. But there are many people that are working from home. Those who don't have the ability to work from home, we are putting on a rotation schedule, and so that people are rotating in and out of the courthouse and in their offices and fulfilling their workload, but not on top of one another. We have had the courts on a weekly basis change things up on us a little bit, which introduces the public into the building. But I think the courts are at a point now that they're running 5 days a week, every afternoon. So it's really dispersing the individuals coming into the courthouse for court, which is a good thing. That was not the case the first week that we were doing this. So things are going well. We're chugging along, and the primary focus and goal at this point is to get the job done, but more importantly, to keep the staff safe while doing it. And the less exposure, the best. I would like to yield the rest of my time, Mr. Chairman. I've asked Sheriff Joyce and EMA Director Joe Chappell to join us this evening, because I thought it would be worthwhile for the commissioners and the public to hear updates from their arenas and what they're doing on campuses or countywide. Sheriff, would you like to kick it off?
Sure. So we've pretty much locked down the jail to anybody coming in whatsoever. We did that about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. Initially, we released about 10 inmates from the Community Corrections Center right out of the gate. Those are folks that were going out, actually working and coming back, and they were going to be released within 90 days. One of the individuals had some symptoms of the coronavirus. We brought that individual over to the negative pressure cell. We eventually got a test back negative. And as of tonight, all of those folks at the Community Corrections Center will have gone through the 14-day quarantine. The plan is, and it's already in effect, is to take those 10 individuals who, 8 of them, shouldn't say, 2 of them, I missed in the first wave, so they'll be released immediately. The other 8 are going to be put out on community confinement under Maine pretrial. The plan is to shut down the Community Corrections Center so that we only have one point of entry for the jail. And as I heard today, there's some homeless folks that have been determined to have the COVID-19. They've tested positive. So really that's up the ante for the jail, because not all homeless folks end up in the jail, but my concern is they brush up against somebody that has it, not knowing, and before you know it, we have an insertion in there. So we're taking steps now to even up the ante a little bit on how we even test individuals coming in, based on the fact that we know that in the homeless community, there are individuals out there that have tested positive, and they're moving around the city pretty freely. I don't know what that's going to be. I had a conversation with medical and the jail staff today. It may mean that we're going to use a lot of more masks than we've been using. The initial testing was that no inmate came into the jail until a nurse and a corrections officer went out to the cruiser, did a questionnaire, took a temperature of the individual, and then made a decision whether or not that person was exhibiting signs or not. If that person did, and they weren't having respiratory difficulties, or they weren't considered a huge threat, then we would put a mask on them, get them through the intake process as soon as possible, get them into medical, into the negative pressure cell. We've had a couple of people that really have not met that. Some people have come in and said, yeah, I've tested positive, but in doing some checking and stuff, we've determined that they're just throwing that out in hopes that we'll just let them out the door. We also have created a pod where we're quarantining anybody who comes in, regardless of whether or not they're showing symptoms. And we're quarantining them in a single pod. We're keeping them in their rooms. After today, they'll probably only come out when they're wearing a mask. And frankly, the corrections officer in there managing them will have a mask as well. If they make it through the 14-day quarantine with no signs and symptoms, and they haven't been released, then they'll end up in a pod. We're a little concerned about equipment. I've been working with Joe, has been out there pounding the pavement, trying to get us what we can get. And I've had some donations from folks that, for masks especially. My concern is face shields. I think we're good for a couple of weeks. But if this really starts to break out in the jail, then the nursing staff is going to have some issues with not having enough face shields, hand disinfectant. The big thing is disinfectant wipes. Because we're checking temperatures and checking vital signs, and we want to disinfect that equipment each and every time we use it. And medical told me today they're in dire need of that. So I sent a couple deputies out to try to find wipes, and we're having a difficult time doing that. So that is our number one issue. The staff is doing a phenomenal job, both on the law enforcement side and correction side. Everyone's showing up for work. Everyone's self-quarantining if necessary, but I haven't seen a lot of that. I figured that, people would have sniffles and maybe stay home, but everyone's doing the right thing. So I can't complain there. A lot of unknowns for the future. The law enforcement side, one of the things that we didn't see is we were concerned prior to this with officers going to overdoses and having to worry about whether or not that substance they come in contact might be a danger to them. Now we add in the fact that some of these overdoses, do they have symptoms of the COVID virus, or do they have the COVID virus and the deputies rushing in there because they don't know? So I've tried to go around and meet with the staff and send out emails, basically saying if you treat everyone like they've got the COVID virus and you approach them and dress up, put the mask on, then you're doing as best you can to keep from getting the virus. We've had periodic updates internally, externally. Every time I send out an update to the staff, you get an update as well on some of the high points, some of the things that should be considered. We're still feeling our way. I will say that the jail generally this is no new territory for us. We have a pandemic policy. The jail staff, especially intake staff, are in tune with the fact that people coming in sometimes may have something that we don't want to get through the jail, and we don't even want the corrections officers to have. So this has just pushed us a little outside our comfort zone, because this is something that we're really trying to figure out what is a symptom, what isn't a symptom, and how do you mitigate that? Going back to the releases, we're still releasing people, but it's a little bit at a time now. The current population is 291. To give you an example, when we started this, it was about 408. Out of the 291, we've got about 88 that are other county or federal inmates, and I don't have any authority over them. So the district attorney, the Defense Attorney Association, probation officers, the judges, and the staff at the intake have done a phenomenal job as a team of really working and trying to put the right people out of the jail, because we're in tune. We don't want to put somebody that's in danger of the public safety out on the street. So we're not willing to trade that. So we're really taking a hard look at who we're releasing. One of the unintended consequences is I've been inundated with letters where I've had to answer why somebody isn't getting out, and then then they go to the governor's office, so I get them a second time. A lot of rumors about we're running out of food, we're out of orange juice, and that's all they are, is rumors. We're all set on food for the time being, and should be, unless something drastically changes that we can't see. I did meet with the staff of the jail to talk to them about how to keep themselves safe, because they are locked in with the inmates, and we know that, God forbid, if it gets in there, could be a petri dish for this thing to take off. I also met with the inmates to let them know what's going on. On the law enforcement side, we're starting to see a few cases of harassment of individuals that are driving cars that have Massachusetts license plates or New York license plates. I was on a conference call with a federal law enforcement today, and we're finding out that some of these folks are actually deployed up here, whether it's from the US Coast Guard, or we're going to see some border patrol going to the northern border in case they shut down the Canadian border. They're driving their own vehicles and they're from out of state, but they're up here working. And they aren't the people that people are assuming are fleeing the hot zones, if you will, and coming up here to spread it. So really that's kind of, I mean, I'll answer any other questions. Joe has been phenomenal about trying to get us resources. You know, I can tell you that we're better than we were last week, but if this catches on, especially in the jail, we're not ready for a long-term enduring widespread event, but we're trying to move in that direction. The medical staff have been phenomenal. They've been checking temperatures of those that have been thought to be having symptoms. We've been checking temperatures and watching them twice a day. So everybody really is pulled together, and we're happy. And every day that goes forward that we don't have somebody impacted, that's a great day on all fronts.
Gotta put water in it.
Any questions?
Good question.
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Kevin, Sheriff, you said that there's 291 in the population and 88 of those are not ours.
Yes, 69 of them are federal inmates, and the other 19 are other county inmates.
So we've got 203 that are county. And how many of those are serving sentences approximately?
Probably about 50, roughly. And keep in mind, these are individuals that, you know, probably aren't going to get out until 2021, or they've got domestic violence sentences, or they've got assaults. They're people that I would consider probably not in our best interest to release, even though our goal is to try to spread people out in case this catches on. Again, it comes down to trading the threat for the threat. I don't want to put somebody who's going to be dangerous out on the street just to get them out of the jail. I'd rather risk it by keeping them in the jail. Some of the other ones we're working on are probation violations and lowering bail and stuff. So it's really been trying to take a look at who we can release and feel comfortable with. And in a lot of these too, even though they had the authority for most of the sentence ones, I used Jonathan Sarback and basically said, you know, you kind of know what the underlying charge is, so I want your opinion. And so, like I said, this has been kind of a team effort.
So we've got approximately 153 that are in the court process.
Exactly.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Cloutier.
Thanks. I think that the process that you just described probably is going to be useful long after this crisis is over. Sheriff, did you just mention that the medical service is looking for shields and masks and is having trouble sourcing those?
Yes.
So I just want to mention, I don't know what the process would be for reviewing what's being produced, but there are a couple of companies I'm aware of here in Cumberland County that are now beginning to manufacture shields and masks. And so if it's a crying need and they want to review those as they're produced, and we can crowbar a few dozen out of those companies, that may be a resource that they'll want to explore.
Well, I'll tell you, I as another idea, I reached out to Joe today to see if we knew somebody at Abbott that maybe we could get one of these quick tests so that we can kind of put that into our booking process. I offered to even pay to sweeten the deal, and potentially if, you know, to help the public out, you know, because this will help us out if we can, you know, definitively test the people coming in, was that maybe we could have a drive-through testing at the jail. if somebody provided a nurse to take care of that, and I would provide the traffic enforcement and, the tents and stuff like that. But, the main goal is to try to keep this out of the jail, because unfortunately, once it gets in, it's a wild card. We think we have a plan, but, that goes back to the fact that we're really good in most pandemic cases. But in this particular one, I think the jury's out on how it spreads and how easy it is to get it. So if anyone has any contacts with Abbott, it'd be nice to get one of those tests, because I think we could do some pretty good work of keeping the jail somewhat safe if we could just test them before they got into the jail. This is a challenge. I've talked to the chiefs. The chiefs are doing a great job at summons versus arrest, but there are going to be times when you got to make an arrest. Law enforcement still has to go on. So really, I don't fault the chiefs for having to make the arrest. It's just that when they come into the jail, that's when things get kind of complicated.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Sheriff, are you having good cooperation from chiefs on arrest versus summons? And is that an ongoing? Because I've heard heard of a case or two. I don't want to go into specifics in a public forum, but I just want your impression about how relations are between the sheriff's department and the various police departments in the county.
Overall, they're really good. I've been in contact with a couple of chiefs because of misinformation out there. I think, again, everybody's kind of somewhat afraid of, the guard is up. We don't know what we're dealing with. And, everybody, including law enforcement and the chiefs, don't want their people, contacting this information, this virus, and then taking it home to their family. We're lucky St. Joseph's College has stepped up to basically give us a way that we can put our people in quarantine. They don't have to go home. And, if we start needing to use that, but I think the chiefs are really clear that they don't want it in their shop. They don't want it in their cars. So they're going to do what they absolutely have to do to try to avoid that. But it's the misinformation. And it's people saying, geez, did you have to bring that person in? And we've got to do a better job at that. But they're very few and far between. And they're not huge issues, even though they may have been made into that. We're all over it.
Good, thank you.
But one clarification for Commissioner Gordon, too. I got it wrong. I think he asked how many sentenced, and I said 50. Flip it around. It's the 50 pretrial, probably close to 100. So I would say it's 50-50. So
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, any other questions for the sheriff? And Jim, you had somebody else on tap to talk to us, Jim Gailey. Whoops, Jim, you're on mute.
Oh,
There you
geez.
go.
This is a little different than the last Zoom I was on. Joe Chappell's joined us this evening, and I've asked Joe to kind of give us a broader perspective on what EMA is doing and out there aiding all 28 communities within Cumberland County. They're doing a fantastic job. And as the sheriff said, they have been very responsive to our needs internally, but also the community's needs. And it's great to have this crew on board. So, Joe, would you like to update the commissioners and staff?
Absolutely. Hey, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So good evening, commissioners. Update, if you haven't already seen it, so 192 positive COVID-19 patients or cases in Cumberland County. We have 31 in the hospitals currently, and there's been 5 deaths in the county. So that's the updates we're getting from Maine CDC. Our county office for the EMA, we've been separated. We're trying to practice social distancing while still activating our EOC. So our EOC, Emergency Operations Center, is at full activation. We are mirroring what the state's doing. They're at full activation during the day and partial activation at night, handling emergencies. We're the same. I have no more than 2 people, 2 staff members in the bunker at all the time. The rest of us are spread remotely. One thing that we've been doing well is the past 2 years, we have been practicing virtual operations and activations virtually. So we've been very fortunate with some of the tools we've been using for situational awareness and communication. We've been practicing and using it daily. So that has helped us out greatly in sharing information while we're remote. One of our number two big things that the EMA office has been doing to support local operations is, Sheriff Joyce mentioned one of them is personal protective equipment, so PPE. Sourcing that material. Since this incident started, the process was managed from the district liaison at the CDC level all the way up through the CDC at the state level. So we've been pushing from a county EMA standpoint to have that resource request logistics chain flow through the county offices up through MEMA, the Maine EMA, and source it that way. We finally got our way. So the CDC has been transferring all logistics, all resources requests from CDC to the EMA offices. That's caused a rush on our office, but we've created a good process with a Google form to be able to do a cut and paste into the state's request process. So we've had a rush, but we've got some good, smart folks that have been able to manage that process. So I see more happening there. So that's a process that's always going to happen, trying to get material from the state down to the locals to meet critical needs. 2 things that we're trying to do to offset or to kind of complement what state resources are available. We've created a local form to provide an avenue for donations. So in case businesses, individuals, organizations want to donate some equipment, some masks, some gowns, some shields, gloves, we have created another Google form that Travis has been able to share or do a press release for us and send out. But that's living on the county website as well. We've had some really good responses to that and been able to deliver them and kind of fill some gaps. Sheriff had mentioned we've been able to steer some to the LE and the jail. We've also been able to share them locally with some clinics and so to meet some of the needs of our municipal fire department and police departments. We've got some more in and we're able to, we've already worked with our local CDC rep to kind of steer those to cover some critical needs. As we get more, we've got plenty of requests, formally requests that we're able to at least give them something. It's not going to be meet exactly what their needs are. It's not going to be 1,000 masks, but it will give them something. So we're going to try to continue meeting that needs. We're maintaining situational awareness. Anything that we can get from the CDC and the Maine CDC and the US CDC, we're passing that around. That way local first responders and town staff can make better decisions on their local front lines. We, since this has been a declared disaster, there's going to be some reimbursement later on. In a similar manner to what you've probably seen during the 2017 windstorm, there was some reimbursement that came down through FEMA. So that's going to be available moving forward. So our office, along with our finance assistants, been able to create an easy tracking form. That way we can share it with our towns. That's probably going out tomorrow or Friday, going to go out to all our town partners. That way it's just to give them a template to create and track local purchases. That way, when reimbursement time comes, they have a nice one spread form to be able to cut and paste into the FEMA portal that's going to come out. Staying in contact with volunteers. We've heard from a lot of volunteers. The state has a volunteer database. We've heard from a lot of folks asking how they can help. So we're trying to stay in contact with those and engage in an effective manner. We've got to make sure that we're watching out for putting people at risk face to face while, so we're ensuring we're practicing all guidelines, social distancing, non-essential travel, but while we're also engaging volunteers to effectively and efficiently support the community. So right there, there's a few items. I could probably talk for days and keep you pretty much glued to this screen for hours. But I'll open it up. If you have any questions for us that we can answer for you, I'd be happy to hear.
Questions?
Yeah, I got a question. Joe, EMS services, there's a rumor out there that they're struggling in the rural areas because of this COVID-19. You got any comment on that?
They probably from both sides, Commissioner, probably from a protective equipment, a PPE side, also from volunteers or workers, responders. What we've seen in our county, and we're not unique, I think this is statewide, is that on the fire and EMS side, that several of those workers may work in several different jurisdictions. So your primary workplace may be in place A, but you may be doing your off days in place B and place C. So there may be some local restrictions placed on that from some of these towns that say, hey, we don't want you working at place B, place C, which as you can probably tell, it impacts some of those smaller areas. So we see that going on. And I don't know if it's coincidental, but before the incident, before we had the coronavirus come in, there was discussion at the fire chief level about some of these dual triple hatters, but obviously no solution came out. So I think that's definitely getting, it's impacting a lot of our partners, a lot of municipalities from that. But we're also, I mean, the PPE, I mean, it's not there, and the supply chain is kind of slow trying to meet the demand. So they're probably suffering from both of those.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Jim Gailey, other comments?
No, just wanted to thank the sheriff and Joe for joining us this evening and giving all an update on what's happening in their worlds. They've been pretty busy handling this pandemic over the last couple of weeks. So thank you guys for joining us this evening.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Very informative. Any other comments from county staff? Seeing none. Oh, Alex, do you? You're
No,
stirring.
you folks haven't already seen from me.
Okay, thank you. All right, comments from the county commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Jameson.
Thank you, Tom. Just very briefly, I want to thank the family interference. I want to thank all the executive staff and the great job that our county manager Jim Gailey has done, the sheriff has done, Joe at EMA, and all the staff members for keeping all the services running and keeping everyone safe and healthy. I think it's critical that we have to take this very seriously. We don't know, we're not even close to the apex of our problem yet. And I think that the county has reacted aggressively, assertively, and efficiently. And to that, we thank you all. And to all our constituents out there in the county, be smart and safe, work remotely, social distance. If you have neighbors and friends or families, call on them, make sure everyone's okay. And everyone stay safe and healthy. We will get through this, but it's a process that we all have to endure and take seriously. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Commissioner Witonis. Susan, would you like to make a comment?
I would follow suit with Commissioner Jameson. I think the executive staff and the sheriff's office have, and with Joe, you're doing a great job. And if there is anything that we can do, I will let us know. And that's
okay.
it. Yep.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Yeah.
Commissioner Cloutier.
So thanks, Tom. I too want to thank both the sheriff and Joe for the detailed update here. It's obvious that there's a lot of work being done. I also want to comment that I think Jim Gailey has at times had to paddle upstream here on a number of issues with with some of the people that some of the offices that are in the county building, and that has required a kind of a consistent insistence on safety and attention to the details of the risk that's out there, and I think he's done a great job of doing that. I don't know if anything will ever come of this, but I did send some details of a post-recovery testing program that apparently a county or two in Colorado intends to apply to all of their citizens, and was a follow-up to an activity that, of all places, apparently was conducted in the country of Iceland that was very revealing about the incidence of this infection among people who had no idea that they ever had it, recovered from it, and have the antibodies to this day, and were surprised to learn that they did. I don't know if that would ever fall within the scope of anything we could accomplish, but we're going to try to, my intention is to try to understand more about it, and maybe a topic for the future for us to consider. But by and large, I think, if you think about, how societies function, I still see a lot of downtown during the week, and there's no question that it seems like, at least in the Portland community, and I'm sure everybody else notices what's going on in their own districts. People have been pretty responsible and have really kind of approached this with some seriousness, and if the cure was designed well in the first place, we've got a pretty good chance that this is going to settle down a little bit, I think. So certainly hope so, and I wish everybody to keep staying safe, keep washing your hands, and staying at home, and with any luck, the summer will be a time when we will be worrying less about this.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cloutier. Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I echo what the other commissioners are saying. This is a real crisis that we have going. The things that I've seen of the other community that seems to be swinging in and giving governments a hand is our religious community. I've seen a lot of especially in the more rural areas, where they're really helping out the elderly by doing the shopping for them, trying to get them the groceries because they can't enter the grocery store without being in real danger. I really got to respect the citizenry, as Jim pointed out, that a lot of people, a lot of citizens are doing good things for good people, and I'm concerned about those that really haven't acknowledged that we are in a crisis. They are taking on a burden that they don't realize, because they could be the one fire that would light and start it off in another direction. The other thing that I don't know if it was a happier note, but I've found that on the highway between Yarmouth and Freeport, there are 3 or 4 lobstermen that show up periodically, and you can get lobsters for a pretty good price. So support your local lobstermen.
I wish I'd known that an hour ago.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. I echo all the comments that were made. I think our county government has outshone itself in organizing the county resources and getting the word out. I would specifically call out Travis Kennedy for getting this technology set up so that we can use it. I think this is a this is a forum that we will probably be making use of more often as time goes on. I have to say I've been spending a lot of time on Zoom for other reasons and other conferences. This was a tool that I've been using for a while, just for convenience, and now it turns out that it's a necessity. So I think I would welcome if any members of the community have any feedback about that. If you could send them to Travis, and he can distribute it. But I hope that this is a way to widen the participation of the public in our meetings. We rarely get people turning up at our meetings to listen and comment or ask questions or whatever. I would certainly welcome more community involvement. This may be the forerunner. I have to say I do miss live meetings. I'll be happy when we can get back to those, but I have the sinking feeling it's going to be many months before it's advisable to do that. So in the meantime, my hat is off to our county manager, the sheriff, the EMA director, and so forth. I feel like we're in good hands. We've been very proactive in this whole process, and I think that's a credit to the folks that work for the county. Out in the wider world, I remain disappointed in the federal government. I don't think we're getting the support that we should be getting from them. It looks like they may be getting their act together. I'm very pleased with the reactions of Mainers and the way the Maine government, the Maine state government, and local governments have really stepped up. So once again, I hope that it's the case of as Maine goes, so goes the nation. So I think we are. I agree. I think the vast majority of people are cooperating with the necessary restrictions on our day-to-day life. I've never seen traffic so little. Rush hour has disappeared from South Portland. I'm happy to say, and the businesses that I am involved in and that I interface with have all either closed down or have greatly modified their operations. This will be I agree with a comment. I believe it was Commissioner Jameson said we're not even halfway through this, and we're going to be with this for a long time. So I think people seem to be adapting pretty well. So anyone who's listening to this, keep doing what you're doing. It's for the good of all of us, and we will eventually come out the other side. So thank you all very much. If there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor, just say aye.
Aye.
And you can turn off your screens. And anybody who wishes to stay in chat, feel free. But seriously, thank you very much. This has been a good meeting, and I'll be interested to see if we get any feedback from it later on.